I found out I was married 3 days before my wedding. I know that sounds impossible. Trust me. I thought so too. For context, I'm 27. And at the time, I was engaged to a guy named Ethan. We'd been together for 4 years. The relationship was honestly perfect. No cheating. No major fights. No giant red flags. We got engaged the year before and spent months planning our wedding. The venue was booked. The invitations were sent. The dress was hanging in my closet. We were 72 hours away from getting married. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. Normally I ignore those. For some reason I answered. Hello? A woman replied. Is this Emily? Yes. She sounded nervous. Then she asked, Are you still with Ethan? My stomach tightened. Who is this? A pause. Then she said, I'm his wife. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was ridiculous. There was no way. Absolutely no way. Except she wasn't joking. I have proof. I walked outside and checked the email she sent. Attached were wedding photos. A man in a suit. A woman in a white dress. Standing together, smiling. My heart stopped. Because the man was Ethan. Not someone who looked like him. Ethan. The man I was supposed to marry in 3 days. There was also a marriage certificate. Dated 6 years earlier. My hands started shaking. Nothing made sense. I immediately called Ethan. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. Then the woman called back. And what she said next made everything worse. Before you assume he's cheating? I almost laughed. Kind of hard not to. I don't think he knows. Silence. What? I don't think Ethan knows we're married. I genuinely thought she was insane. You forget birthdays. You forget passwords. You do not forget a marriage. But she sounded completely serious. Then she explained. Years ago, she briefly dated Ethan. Only a few weeks. Then they stopped talking. Recently, she tried getting married. The courthouse informed her she was already legally married. To Ethan. My Ethan? I felt sick. Because now the story wasn't getting clearer. It was getting stranger. Then she said, I think somebody used our identities. I stopped pacing. What? There are signatures on the paperwork. Neither of them are mine. For the first time, I started wondering if she was telling the truth. Because if she was, someone had legally married 2 strangers without either of them knowing. And somehow nobody noticed for 6 years. Then she said, meet me tonight. Every instinct told me not to. But curiosity won. 6 hours later, I sat across from a woman who legally shared my fiancé's last name. And the first thing she put on the table wasn't the marriage certificate. It was a photograph. Of me. Taken 8 years before I ever met Ethan. Written on the back were 4 words. Future wife number 2. I stared at the photograph for a solid minute. Maybe longer. Because nothing about it made sense. The photo was real. It was definitely me. I recognized the jacket. The haircut. Even the parking lot behind me. It was taken when I was 19. Years before I met Ethan. My hands started shaking. Where did you get this? The woman across from me looked just as disturbed. I was hoping you could tell me. She slid an envelope across the table. Inside were more photos. One of Ethan leaving a grocery store. One of me sitting in a college library. One of her walking into a gym. Different years. Different cities. Different lives. But every photo had writing on the back. Mine said, Matu. Hers said, Saun. Ethan said, husband. I felt sick. What the hell is this? She shook her head. I don't know. Then she handed me a folded sheet of paper. It wasn't a legal document. It was a list. Names. Dates. Addresses. My name was on it. So was Ethan's. So was hers. Next to each name was a date. The same dates the photos were taken. Then I noticed something else. There were more names. Lots of them. Some crossed out. Some circled. People neither of us recognized. What is this? She hesitated. After I found the marriage certificate, I hired a private investigator. I frowned. Apparently she thought Ethan was running some elaborate scam. Then the investigator found this list. Every person on it had appeared together in public records somehow. Marriage records, property records, emergency contact forms, as if someone had been connecting strangers on paper, building fake families. The phrase sent a chill down my spine. Then I noticed a date written at the bottom. 3 days from now. My wedding day. Underneath it was a woman's name. Someone I'd never heard of. What does that mean? The woman swallowed. The investigator thought your wedding was next. I stared at her. What? He believes somebody planned this years ago. The whole thing sounded insane. But the photos were real. The marriage certificate was real. And somehow someone had a picture of me taken 8 years ago. Then she said, the investigator wanted to meet you. I frowned. Wanted? Her expression changed. And suddenly I knew I wasn't going to like the answer. He disappeared yesterday. Silence. I just stared at her. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text message. 1 image. Nothing else. I opened it. And immediately felt my stomach drop. It was a photograph taken through the restaurant window. A photograph of us sitting at the table. Taken minutes earlier. Underneath it were 5 words. You're asking the wrong wife. You're asking the wrong wife. I read the message 3 times. Then a 4th. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. The woman across from me leaned forward. What is it? I turned the screen around. The second she saw the photo, her face went pale. Because whoever sent it wasn't bluffing. They were watching us. Right now. I immediately stood up, looked around the restaurant. Every table, every booth, every person near the windows. Nobody looked suspicious, which somehow made it worse. Because normal people don't secretly photograph strangers. Then another text arrived. A new photo. This time it was taken from outside. Me standing by the table. The woman sitting across from me. Time-stamped less than 30 seconds earlier. I felt sick. The woman grabbed her purse. We need to leave. I didn't argue. 5 minutes later, we were sitting in her car several blocks away. Both staring at the messages. Neither speaking. Then I noticed something. The phone number. It wasn't blocked. It was an actual number. I called it immediately. Straight to voicemail. But not a normal voicemail. There was no name. No greeting. Just static. Then a voice. A woman's voice. Emily. My blood froze. Because she said my name. Then, "You're running out of time." The voicemail ended. I stared at the phone. The woman beside me looked terrified. What did it say? Before I could answer, my phone rang. This time it was Ethan. Finally. I answered immediately. "Ethan, where are you?" Silence. Then, "Who is Sarah?" I froze. Sarah. The woman beside me. Apparently Ethan had questions too. A lot of them. Because someone had just emailed him photographs. The same wedding photos. The same marriage certificate. Everything. I looked at Sarah. She looked at me. Neither of us said anything. Then Ethan said something strange. "Emily," his voice sounded nervous. "Did you send someone to my apartment?" "What?" "There's a woman here." I sat upright. "What woman?" Silence. Then Ethan whispered, "She says she's my wife." Every hair on my body stood up. Slowly, I turned toward Sarah. Sarah looked just as confused as I was, because she was sitting right beside me, which meant whoever was at Ethan's apartment was someone else. Then Ethan spoke again, and this time his voice was shaking. "Emily." "What?" Long pause. Then, "She looks exactly like Sarah." Neither of us moved. Neither of us breathed. Then Ethan sent a photo. The image loaded, and my stomach dropped instantly, because standing in Ethan's apartment was a woman who looked exactly like Sarah. Same face, same hair, same smile, almost identical, except for one thing. Written across the back wall behind her in black marker were 4 words. "Wife number 1 returned." Wife number 1 returned. I stared at the photo, then at Sarah, then back at the photo, because the woman standing in Ethan's apartment looked exactly like her. Not similar, not close, exactly. Same eyes, same hair, same face. The only difference was the smile. Sarah looked terrified. I swear that's not me. The fact she said it before either of us asked somehow made it more believable. Then Ethan spoke again. "She knew your name." My stomach dropped. "What?" She asked where Emily was. I felt sick. Because whoever this woman was, she wasn't randomly pretending to be Sarah. She knew about me too. Then Ethan said, "She left something." "What?" Silence. Then I heard paper unfolding. Ethan's breathing changed immediately. "Emily, what is it?" His voice dropped. "There's a picture." Of course there was. Everything seemed to involve photographs. "What picture?" Long pause. Then, "It's you." I froze. Ethan sent the image. The second it loaded, I felt my stomach twist. It was another photograph of me. Older than the first one. Maybe 15 years old. I couldn't have been more than 12. I was standing outside my elementary school, completely unaware someone was taking the photo. Written across the bottom were 3 words. "Final candidate approved." Neither Sarah nor I spoke, because at that point this wasn't some identity theft scam anymore. Somebody had been watching me for years. Then Sarah suddenly sat upright. "Wait." "What?" She grabbed the original list from her bag, the one with all the names, all the dates, all the photographs, and started scanning through it. A few seconds later, her face went white. "Oh my God." My heart started pounding. "What?" She pointed at the page. For the first time, I noticed the names weren't random. They were grouped. One husband, several wives, then another husband, several wives, then another. Like categories or assignments. Then I noticed something else. Some names had check marks. Others had X's. My name had a check mark. Sarah's name had a check mark. The woman in Ethan's apartment had a check mark. And suddenly I understood what I was looking at. These weren't victims. They were selections. Then my phone buzzed. Another text. Unknown number. One message. No photo this time. Just words. There should have been 3 wives. I stared at the screen. Then another message arrived. One of them disappeared. Sarah grabbed my arm. Hard. Because a second later, a 3rd message appeared. And this one made my blood run cold. Ask Sarah what happened in 2018. Slowly, I looked up. Sarah wasn't looking at me anymore. She was staring at the message. And for the first time since we met, she looked guilty. For the first time since we met, Sarah looked guilty, not scared. Guilty. I stared at her. "What happened in 2018? She looked away. Then quietly said, "I thought it was a prank." Apparently 6 years ago she started receiving packages. No return address. Inside were photographs, names, dates, and letters claiming she had been selected. She ignored them. A few weeks later, another package arrived. Then another. Then another. each containing more names, more photos, more information. Then Sarah admitted something she'd never told anyone. She met another woman from the list. The woman was terrified, convinced someone had been watching her for years. Sarah didn't believe her. 3 months later, the woman disappeared. Completely. No phone, no social media, nothing. That's when Sarah panicked. She destroyed everything. The letters, the photographs, all of it. Then she moved away and tried to forget. Why didn't you tell anyone? She laughed bitterly. Would you have believed me? Honestly, probably not. Then my phone buzzed. One final message. Unknown number. No image. Just a sentence. The project has been terminated. And that was it. No more messages. No more photographs. Nothing. The police investigated. The marriage certificate was real. But nobody could figure out who filed it. The addresses on the list led nowhere. The investigator was eventually found alive, but refused to discuss the case. As for the woman who looked like Sarah, she vanished. No records, no identity, nothing. 6 months later, Ethan and I finally got married. Small ceremony. No drama, no mystery wives. At least that's what I thought. Until the photographer sent our wedding pictures. Most were normal, except one, taken through a window from outside the venue. In the background stood a woman, watching us. Blonde hair, same face as Sarah, same smile. And in her hand was a small sign. 3 words, wife number 1,